hello and welcome to the Guest Life Podcast, episode 38. We're so lucky today. We have Alex Hill in the building. He's a longtime friend. He used to be my quarterback. He's something special, so we're going to get into it today. We're very fortunate to have him. We're going to talk sales, real estate, investing.
Yeah.
Alex works with Team Grande on a Remax escarpment up on the mountain there. Lots of cool things. Thanks for having you.
I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to get into it.
And, Alex, growing up as you know, with high school, obviously, you see that guy and you're familiar. And then all of a sudden we grow up and there's careers and professions and all this different stuff that, you're kind of interested in because you know someone so well.
Yeah.
And then you lose touch. And then all of a sudden you come back and it's like, what have you been doing?
Yeah.
And that's why we're here today, to talk a little bit about that.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate today.
Yeah, so it was 6 years ago. I was playing football with a guy, Matty, that runs our team.
Okay.
And honestly, he's an incredibly humble, just a good, honest dude. Everyone loves him. The life of the party. Got a great family. I'm like, I want his life. I want to be you. When I was in university, I was playing with him and I was also investing with my brother. So I had 2 rental properties I'd purchased with my brother because he got me into that. And I literally said to Matty one day, like, I want to be you. And he's like, go get your license. And I was like, okay. So I just graduated. My original plan was to teach because I love working with kids. I loved coaching football. So I was like, maybe I'll teach. But then I didn't want to have like a salary. I wanted to be in something commission based. I knew that. So I was still working just in the nightclubs on the weekends. And I was like, I got all this time. I'll do the schooling. I'll get my license.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So like, oh yeah,
fun.
I used to see you in a suit downtown.
Those days are luckily long gone, but it was fun and I made some really good connections. It's like, it's not necessarily the best environment, but you can make the best out of it. And that was important.
I would debate on the best. I thought it was the best environment at the time.
At the time, it absolutely was. I mean, I got paid to party.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But I made a lot of good connections. There were people that from there, like now call me or remember me and are willing to buy a house with the same guy that they were getting bottle service from, which is pretty cool because it's all about the experience and how you treat people. And if you make them feel like special, make them a priority, they'll come calling. I got my license and it's been 4.5 years now that I've been licensed. I would never imagine my life without it.
Wow.
And it's not just like buying, it's not just the selling of the real estate. I love investing. Like that's a huge passion of mine. And Matty also, who runs the team, who's like my mentor, is huge in that as well. So I basically, like everything that he did over the last 10 years, he just gives me all that information and I kind of take it and run with it.
Wow.
And here we are now.
Well, and you talk about mentorship and being an open and honest, and for anyone listening, like we're talking about, the best compliment is taking advice and doing something with it.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm sure, if you're an entrepreneur or you're listening, we're talking about, people want to give away their secrets because they're not secrets.
Yeah.
They've been stolen or taken or however you want to say from somebody else and then just implemented. Yeah. And everybody that's doing anything knows how hard it is to do something.
Yeah.
So, finding that ability or, some call it a unique ability, but also that drive or that passion, is so cool. And obviously Matty, is your team leader. And what's it like being in a team real estate?
I wouldn't change it. Like we met through sports, right?
Yeah.
And for me, sports has always been a huge thing. I still to this day play and coach. And it's like, I need that environment. I couldn't just show up in my office and sit alone in my own office, do my own thing. I wouldn't be motivated. So I need people around me kind of pushing me to be better. A little bit of friendly competition in there as well. They keep you on your toes, right? But it's like having that team environment. Yesterday we had our team meeting and we did a bocce tournament all afternoon with it. So, you have that like camaraderie and those events and all that stuff. And like, that's what I love. So when I joined the team, there was just 5 of them at the time. We're now up to 15 with a couple team coordinators as well.
Wow.
So it's really cool to see the progression since I've been there.
That's awesome.
And the biggest thing about like mentorship that I think is so huge for anyone who wants to be successful is you got to find someone that you want to be like. Like just because someone's successful, if you're completely different, it's not going to work because you can't change or you can't expect them to change. Like you've got to find someone who's like, we have a lot of similar qualities. We want similar things in life, and then kind of go from there. I just think people see like, oh, that person's really successful. I want to be them. I'm going to mimic it. But if it's too fake, people are going to see that.
Yeah. Oh man, that's such a great point. I remember, you know, one of the things everybody, you know, talks to me, oh man, you must have wanted to be in business your whole life. Like, man, that was the last thing I wanted. I actually hated the thought of being in business. Yeah. All I could think about was not being in business, and why. My first bosses were fantastic, but they lived it. Mm-hmm. They were first one in, last one out every day. If they went on vacation, they were on the phone complaining. Yeah. Their wives were, when are you going to come home? When are you going to put the phone down? Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be a plumber. It's going to be great, right? Yeah. And I'm going to get into real estate. Yeah. Well, obviously, we're here now. Didn't happen. But it was because I realized that, you know, I don't need to be them, right? Yeah. I can be myself in a business role. But they were mentors to me in areas, right? Yeah. But also I call them dementors, where it's like you find something about someone that you might aspire to be like, and then you're like, you kind of pick something from them where, oh, they're a little bit hot-headed, or maybe you're a little scatterbrained. Yeah. You know, I think it's really interesting to self-talk. Yes. You know, talking about real estate and your team, it's like, oh, I'm not organized. It's like, well, forever? Yeah. You know, it's like we went through that generation where, you know, your parents are like, oh, I don't know how to use a phone. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I'm so old. So, well, you're 50. Right?
You got time.
You got time. You're gonna live in this world for 40 years not knowing how to use a phone. I mean, now my mom's sending me Facebook messages, and you know, she likes every single one of the company photos. It's just, you know, love her to death, and that's what the support's for. But don't tell me that you can't learn or you can't change in terms of those, you know, that self conversation. Yeah. How do you find you've tweaked those things along the way? I love that, talking about, you know, find someone you want to be like. That resonates a lot. Yeah.
So honestly, there's so much about how I find, you know, like my mentor carries himself in certain situations and takes care of the people around him and all that stuff. And the one thing I'll say is he's so busy in real estate that he can't find time to shut down. Yeah. And, you know, at the end of the day, like running a team and having a ton of your own clients, right? You can probably relate to this. It is difficult to shut down. So you got to start putting things in place early and really sticking with that. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, how do I find that personal life and work balance? And what's huge, I think, is really knowing what you need to be your best. So it's like, okay, if I want to be in a good mental state, what do I got to do? I got to work out a couple of times a week. I got to get to my football games. I got to have the odd cottage weekend away. You know, I got to see my friends still. So it's like, schedule what I need, put it in the calendar. Someone wants to see a house. Sorry, like, unless it's pressing, that hour of my day that I have for whatever it is, I can just schedule around that. And people are flexible. So it's important to like get done what you need to. And then the rest of the stuff, you can kind of work around that. Yeah. Put my work stuff in there, and I'm happy. I got done what I needed to accomplish for the day. My clients saw me. I'm always available still on my phone, or I'm away for the weekend. I have someone physically covering my appointments. Amazing. I'm there if you need to call me. So like getting those boundaries set early, I think, is important, because otherwise you just won't shut down and eventually you'll burn out. Yeah. And setting boundaries, not rules. Absolutely. Yeah. Boundaries, not rules. Craig Spears, big shout out to him. He knows that concept, but it's, like, did you ever feel when you started that you couldn't? Yeah, definitely. And I think, though, at the same time, it's... You got to jump as soon as someone says, oh, God. Yeah, which I'm okay with. Like, I don't look back and regret that. Like, that's why I'm happy I got into real estate young. Because when you're, like, young, you're single, I got nothing else to do. It's like, hey, you want to call me at 10:30 at night? It's fine. I'm just sitting on my couch. You know what I mean? I don't got to worry about my kids sleeping or anything like that. So... and that helps you build up that clientele. People like that immediate response. Like, our generation is on their phones 24/7. So if you don't give them that answer, they're going to find it elsewhere quickly. Totally. So I find there is definitely a balance where, like, you do got to be on the ball and get back to people quickly. Early in my career, I was like really, really on that. Now I'm a little better about, you know, hey, I'll get back to you within a few hours. I'm just out on appointments or I'm driving, whatever it may be. So early in my career, yeah, absolutely. Jump. Whatever it was, I was there.
Yeah.
You need to see I was in Niagara Falls in 2 minutes, I'm on the road. But now it's like you kind of set those boundaries a little bit more and it all works out. It's just about prioritizing your time because I found I was burning out a little bit.
Yeah. Man, it's fantastic advice. I mean, I remember, when we started, it was very similar in the sense of like understanding what a client's actual needs are,
Yeah.
and then what are their needs when you're never saying no.
Yeah.
Right. And how far they can push that envelope and push that envelope. And,
Yeah.
and the boundaries and instead of rules, a big concept.
Yeah.
When was there an aha moment where you're like, was it either fed up or inspiration?
That's a good question. You know what it was? I think it was just listening to people like talk about this, whether it was at conferences or whatever. They always say like, and I'm talking to like big time agents that are really busy.
Yeah. Like
how they got to start to prioritize their day and set times and schedule things. And I'm like, maybe I should start to do that a little more. And half the time I think too is we put the pressure on ourselves more than the client. Like they don't need me to answer within seconds.
Yeah.
But we feel like we have to, like we're kind of in that culture. So it's just like, I think it was more listening to other people, but also watching some people that don't stop. And I'm like, hey, that's not my goal. Like, even if it means I can make more money that year, that's not my goal.
Yeah.
Like, sure, more money sounds great, but like at what expense? So I think just finding a happy balance.
Yeah. That's an amazing point. We talk about, this podcast is very much entrepreneurial and self-discovery and getting outside of your comfort zone. When you talk about self-discovery and going to these, events, like I see that you're always active. You've spoke at a lot of different events. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I've been fortunate like that I was just surrounded by some people that have started these and they've asked me to come speak. For me, that really gets me outside of my comfort zone. Like if you would have asked me 2 years to do this, I would have been sweating on the way here. Like I never loved public speaking. I got nervous with that stuff. But once you like know what you're talking about, you're confident. And at that point, it starts to really just flow easy. It's like, I know what I'm talking about. I know how to run my business. I know what I want. So it's just a conversation. But when you're like new and you're trying to learn all this stuff and you don't even know what you're doing yet, because let's face it, like just like anything in school, I don't think it prepares you, right? Like the schooling for real estate does not prepare you to become an agent. You learn a lot as you go.
In the bar scene.
Yeah. Learn a lot there that you don't remember.
Yeah. What was I doing? Oh yeah, they spent that much? All right, sweet. That's my take for the night.
But yeah, no. So I think it's just like becoming confident in knowing what you're talking about, and then it makes it easy.
Yeah. And when it comes to like self-discovery and kind of mindset, which obviously, you do a lot of work on, which is amazing, and working on yourself and becoming that best version of you.
Yeah.
Was there a point where you were maybe not in that mode and you transitioned to it? Like I was kind of telling you about the podcast before I started.
Yeah.
And how it was like, aha, like I just got to do this. Did you have an aha moment for that?
I wouldn't know if it I wouldn't say necessarily an aha moment. What I found though was like when I was getting burnt out with real estate and I wasn't taking care of myself in terms of like going to the gym here and there and doing the things I wanted, that's when I just wasn't myself. I was in this like vicious cycle of like not sleeping as much, not waking up as happy. I was getting tired of my job. I was like, someone wants to see a house and I was like, oh, I'm angry. And it's like, hey, what's going on here? Something's off.
Yeah.
So then like when I noticed like I felt that like irritation coming on, which was new to me, I was very busy at the time with work, but it was like, okay, I need to put things in place to where like I'm doing what I need to do. Like I didn't go away for like 8 months at one point. And I was like not even a weekend.
Really?
And it was just like, I got to do something. Like I got to go on a trip. I got to like focus on me because people are going to feel that energy when I'm with them. Totally. So it's like, I got to just make sure I take care of myself and then the rest will kind of fall into place.
Yeah. And being present in the moment, right? Like not always trying to get to the next meeting, get to the next appointment.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. Shutting my brain down is not an easy thing. And I can't even imagine for someone like you with the fleet you have in the company, like it's a lot. So, I mean, mine on a smaller scale, but it is important that you find time to really settle down, shut down, take some time for yourself because that's what everybody needs.
Well, and the big thing is, for people listening and I was really challenged with this as I kind of got through that journey, which is like, it's got to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
Which is like, no, I need some time to shut down, and I'm not there yet in my business. So either I don't do it, or I shut down and then I come back to chaos.
Yeah.
So, over the years, I mean, we've been in business, we're in our 8th year now. It's a little bit of a hybrid model where when I started, it was, I'd be away, but my phone was glued to my ear, and that was okay. I got a little bit of awareness.
Yeah.
And, I was at a cottage answering phone calls instead of, in the office or in a truck or in an apartment, wherever it ended up being. And then now it's like, okay, so now I can check emails at 4 once a day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I can shut it down, put my phone away, I get back to people's calls, but I'll book an hour a day where I dive in so that I don't come back to chaos.
I need to do more of that. I like that.
And, that balance of, it's got to be work-life balance. It's like, well, like maybe one day I'm not there yet. And that's okay. Let's not beat ourselves up about it.
I'm all about that. Like, it's not about tomorrow for me. I'm talking like 5, 10, 30 years down the road.
Totally.
Like, where am I going to be then? So there is some sacrifice that comes with it now. Like, let's face it, we're still young.
Totally.
So this is when you make the sacrifices. This is when you take the risks, do what you got to do. And it's for the long-term goal. Like, it's funny, you talk about answering your phone at the cottage. I went up with my family, I think it was in May. So like my parents, my brother, my niece, and we're having a great time. Like, we're all excited. We cooked this beautiful dinner, and sure enough, my phone rings, and it's a deal that I'm working on that night. And it's like, guys, enjoy your dinner. I'm gone. So I'm away. They feel bad. Like, should we wait? I'm like, no, I'm going to be a while. Like, and I'm just, pacing on the phone. That's my thing. I walk everywhere.
Yeah. Get your steps in.
Yeah. And then after, they're just like, how'd it go? I tell them, they're like, we were all talking about like the reason we can be here is because of those sacrifices, right? You know what I mean? So you do miss stuff like that. It's like, sure, that dinner would have been awesome to be there and be present. But at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do to have certain things.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. Like, we never grew up with a cottage. I didn't know what life was at a cottage. I didn't know what it was like to own one or go to one every weekend. But I was like, you know what? I'm willing to make those sacrifices because this is the life that I want.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic, man. And I think that that story really resonates with a lot of people because, sometimes with that entrepreneurial spirit, they're like, oh, man, you can't put your phone down for 10 minutes. Like, you feel like this is work.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
Let me get my steps into it. Right? Like, I got no problem.
I'm going to get this done now.
Okay. The weekend and the kids walking, they can wait. I don't care. Like, it's, but I find sometimes there's a lot of external pressure to be like, oh, just take it later, or just worry about it later.
Absolutely.
It's like, once in a while that's fine and we're okay. But if you've got that entrepreneurial mindset, and again, if you're in that headspace where it's not, oh shit, I got to take that call. Yeah. It's, I get to go get that call.
Yeah.
This call came in. This is awesome. I'm gonna get a deal tonight, right?
Yeah.
Put the game face on. And so, you talking about the cottage and some of the sacrifices. Again, fortunate to know a little bit about your story and be extremely intrigued.
No, I appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about your investing side of you and your business and some of the risks you've been taking and the successes you had.
Yeah, no, so it started really young with me. Like I said, my brother's 5 years older. He got me into investing. So when I was still in university, luckily the club money, he got 2
Which
properties.
most people don't have, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure at that age there wasn't a lot of...
No, like, he was lucky. He pushed me and prices were cheap. We bought in Niagara.
Okay.
We got 2 places. I got a duplex in Niagara for $300K at the time.
Wow.
And then a pre-construction townhouse for $360. I mean, numbers you just unheard of, right?
Yeah.
So he got me in. He's like, hey, just give me half the down payment. I'll get the mortgage essentially, but we'll put you on title because I was making cash.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. I had no idea what I was doing. Genuinely no idea. Just signed where I was told to sign. Those properties have been amazing. So I'm lucky that he got me in early. And then once I realized I wanted to get into real estate, I was like, okay, like I can't be a real estate agent that lives at home. I don't want to be that guy. I got to go get my own house now. So quickly after starting in real estate, I bought a property on the West Mountain, which I turned into the 2 units as we've discussed, which I think is the best thing ever. And then I got the itch once I was done renovating that. I was like, I want a cottage. COVID had just hit. I had spent a couple like weekends in the summer at cottages. And to me, like the numbers just made so much sense.
Yeah.
And I'm like, every rental property I have right now is great. They're making money. They're carrying themselves, paying down the mortgage. I'm happy. But all I get is the headache. here I can enjoy this, right?
Yeah.
So, after COVID, the cottage market started peaking.
Oh yeah.
The highest it's ever been. But to me, I'm like, it still is undervalued. Because when you can get $3,000 a week in rent in the peak season, and even in your off season, still get great rent, like the cash flow is incredible. So it just made sense financially. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I don't care where. As long as I'm within 3.5 hours of Hamilton and I'm waterfront, just get me on a lake and I'll figure the rest out. So, it was crazy because it was all like firm offers, way over asking. Like I was tapped out at like $800K when I was looking at the time. I just couldn't go over that. I was buying it alone. And I remember in Halliburton, I got smoked in competition on a place that I loved. Yeah. But then I ended up finding this place in Kawartha Lake. So I'm right in Bob Cajun.
Amazing.
And I got it way undervalued. They weren't holding back offers at a time that they should have. And I ended up paying under $700,000 for a 1,400 square foot cottage with a 600 square foot garage attached. I got like 130 feet of waterfront, and it was dated for sure, but it had the lady had lived there. So it was a 4-season home. It had a furnace, an AC, a backup generator, like all the important things were there. And I was like, hey, I'll just make this pretty, rent it out. And I just thought about how to, I'm coming up here with my friends. What do I want? So I needed more bedrooms to sleep more people, all the lawn games, a nice new dock, a big fire pit area. So I just did everything that I wanted to do to it.
Yeah.
I try to get up there at least once a month, whether it's like a weekend or a full week or a long weekend, which I'll be heading up tomorrow.
Amazing.
And then the rest of it just really carries itself. There's definitely a little bit of work, like any rental. You have a new tenant every week. So you got to think about that. But financially, it just made so much sense. And I couldn't be happier. Like, I'm so glad I did it. And the only time I'll sell that is to hopefully upgrade it to a different cottage one day. But now I can't imagine not having one. Just always having it there. So that's been great. And I'm really happy doing that.
Man, congratulations. I mean, I think it's such a success story when you hear about the hard work that goes into the lost deals, and obviously like being in real estate, you knew how to, you can only blame yourself if you don't get it done. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, but understanding the market and seeing that potential, and really I find sometimes, we talked about it earlier with your duplex. When I was growing up and got into and was starting to get into the market, my family looked at it, what I was going to do, because my first house was a duplex. They looked at me if I had 6 heads. Yeah. They're like, you're going to have a stranger, you don't know them, live in your house. Absolutely. Because they think it's your house. Yeah. It's like, what an apartment building. Yeah. What about a condo complex, right? There's floors, there's doors, there's construction separating 2 people. Yeah. Where, back in the day, that wasn't a norm, right? It was maybe an in-law suite, which I think a lot of people get away with calling them now, which they're not. Well, we know all about that. Yeah. I'm not going to give away any secrets here, but yeah, you're paying the mortgage, and
it's a way to house hack.
It is, and when people talk about even coming in from Toronto, they say, I can't afford a home anymore. It's like, what are you looking for in a home? Yeah. Right? What are you willing to sacrifice to get into the market, which over time just makes a huge impact on the success that you can do, and I'm sure leverage on refinances. And
huge. And that's how you're able to do all this stuff after, right? When you can access the equity in your property, you're talking about tax-free money to put towards another investment, and then now that investment's doubled with this tax-free money that you just pulled from another property. Totally. And with the way rents are, if you have 2 units, you refinance that place, you're still covering. Yeah. And you don't really want to profit on your rental properties, in my opinion. I don't want cash flow from it, because then I got to pay tax on that. Totally. So, there's so much that can be done once you're in. Yeah. And like you said, people are thinking what about a condo or this or that, instead of renting out your basement. But it's like, that house is probably appreciated compared to that condo you could have bought.
10 times over.
And when I was buying my first house, I bought a bungalow on the West Mountain, and at this for the same price, I could have got a townhouse essentially. Yeah. And this already had an in-law setup in the basement. And I'm like, okay, yeah, for sure. I can get a townhouse. I can have more living space for myself, but I don't need that right now. I would rather have a better lot and the income in the basement. So when I first bought the house, my mortgage was $1,900 and I was getting $1,400 in rent for my basement. So it's like, why am I not doing that? And then that allows me to take these other risks, like the cottage and stuff like that, because I'm not stressed about making my bills month to month because it was costing me next to nothing to live.
Totally.
So I'm all for that. And like first time buyers or young couples, I push the heck out of that.
Yeah. Well, and you know, like banks are so aware of it now in terms of the lending opportunities now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially if you can get a place that already has a tenant in it. You know, it really goes against what you can borrow.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, again, there's so much to chat about, but let's talk a little bit about that non-teaching life and then what that turned into with your coaching career now.
Yeah.
You know,
So
if you guys didn't hear me earlier, you know, Alex used to be my quarterback. You know what I mean? I didn't catch anything, but I think I was a D end or something like that. But, you know, I was super supportive of him every time he got on and off the field.
I appreciate that.
Tell us a little bit about all the stuff you do in the community and you know, giving back and you know, being a mentor for the next generation of you.
Yeah, no. So I was always into the coaching side of things. Like when I was 14, I started essentially coaching. I found myself getting burnt out a little bit, so I took a few years off. And now my brother started a really successful flag football league out in Niagara because he lives in Thorold. So now they've grown to over 500 kids.
Wow.
They started with 60 in, I believe, 2019. He's now over 500 kids. He just won top 40 under 40 out in Niagara with his success there, which is super cool. So that kind of got me fired up again to get involved. And when I would go around the league and see that community kind of vibe, I was like, I'm all in. I want to work with these kids. And you see the parents are appreciative. The kids want to learn. So I took a girls rep team to a provincial tournament in London with another coach, and we won that, which was cool. I was like, gets my blood flowing again. You know, it's the competition.
Yeah.
So I love that. You know, in terms of sponsoring the league, I help out wherever I can with that. It's my brother, and it's a sport I genuinely believe in. I think flag football is incredible. It takes the contact out. Kids feel comfortable doing it. And hey, I don't think at 10 years old, kids need to be banging heads yet. They don't even know how to protect themselves.
Totally.
So it's a great sport for both boys and girls.
My mom loves that statement.
Yeah. And I think every mom, you know, would rather see their kid playing football.
My mom hated when I started playing football.
Yeah, I can imagine. My mom still is scared of it.
The worst.
But no, so I love the coaching side of it. So we're actually going to PEI in 2 weeks. My brother has a team that's competing for the national championship. So his league's kind of created these travel teams. And we've been involved with flag football since, you know, I was like in grade 4. So we have a really good background in that. So I love the coaching. It gets me like really into it. And it's fun. Like, you know what I mean? I love working with kids. That was part of the reason I wanted to teach.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I got into real estate, but then I still have this that like allows me to do that until I have my own kids, and then I'll be coaching their sports.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good for you. Like, I mean, I remember anyone that's been in sports can probably name most of their coaches, if not all of them, for good or bad reasons. You know, but those teachers, whether it's an education teacher or someone in the school systems or sports programs, man, they make a huge impact.
Oh, huge.
And that team camaraderie, like, again, like, you know, I saw you and like, you know, my girlfriend's like, oh, who's that guy? I was like, oh, he's my quarterback, but he's also this kick-ass realtor. You know, we saw each other in a football game. Oh, you want to be on the podcast? Get me on the podcast. Let's go.
I love that.
And it's just immediate, right? You never, you know, you might walk by someone in school that you remember going to school with, and you don't say hi, but you never walk past someone that you played a sport with.
Yeah, it's a different bond.
It doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah, no, it's a different bond. And like you went through the same things together, the same battles, and like in you know, some way, shape, or form, they impacted you. And then it's really cool. You know, I see what you're doing with your company. I follow everything, and it's like, it is so sick to see someone like, you know, who would have known when we're that age what you're going to be doing now.
Totally.
And I love seeing the success for you, man. Like it happens to good people for a reason. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I always say, like, when I'm talking to anybody young that wants to get into real estate, I'm like, you've got to think about every interaction with every person. I mean, I wish you thought about that when you were very young, but if not, start now.
Yeah.
Because you got to leave a positive impact everywhere you go. You've got to be memorable for all the right reasons. And then these people will all follow you and they'll be cheering for you. Yeah. You might not know it, you might not hear it, but there'll be people in your corner. And I think that's what it's about when you see guys that like you played sports with or coaches or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I know kids that I coach that like, I want to hear one day that like they're just exceeding in life and they're happy and they found their passion, and everyone wins like that, right?
Yeah, man, it's just incredible point, and like, really hits home for so many people, because it's that generational gift of giving back for what you've taken, and being a mentor, and holding space for them and their quirky comments, or I'm sure some of the stuff you hear is a little out there. So, what ages do you coach?
So I've done everything from like 10 to like 20 now.
Wow.
Because some of the travel teams, they had up into under 20.
Really?
In general, I'm usually like between 12 and 16.
Amazing.
So, and I like that. I feel like it's still an age where like I'm still young enough that they can relate to me and they'll tell me stuff. But they also respect the authority, and you can really like shape them in a way that like you don't realize. You spend a lot of time with these kids.
Totally.
And how they interact. Like, we went to a tournament and we had like 6 teams, and it was like, guys, listen, after every game, you shake everyone's hand, and I better hear a good game from you. I don't care what happened during the game. You shake their hand and you say, good game. And if you pull their flag, you don't throw it on the ground. You don't celebrate. You hand it right back to them. All these other things. I say, you score a touchdown. I get it. You're 13 years old. You're excited. We act like we've been there. We high five each other. We get back to our bench. We celebrate after the game together, not in their face, as a team. And it's like little things like that. You create those kind of habits in them young, and it translates, because you see some coaches on the sidelines that are just crazy, as we've all seen, and their players follow suit, right? Like, you're the leader, so you got to lead by example. And you can just make such an impact, I think, early on, to like show them the right way to do things and the wrong way to do things.
Yeah. And they take that home with them.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see it in the pros, obviously, from a, 100-foot view or whatever you want to say on TV and stuff like that. But when you're in it, it's like you're shaping these kids.
Yeah.
And it's same with growing a team and staff.
Yeah.
Right. I used to be a lot more aggressive, a lot more hot-headed. We talked a little bit earlier about assuming everything is, man, it's just when I started to calm down, work on myself, all of a sudden, wow, my team calms down, works on itself. Like,
they follow the leader.
Yeah. And you know what? And then you learn from each other, and that's how you really grow.
Yeah. I'm all for that.
So, coming to the end of the podcast, we always ask this question. If you were talking to your younger self, what advice would you give?
Yeah. It's funny. This was a tough one I always found, even from watching your past episodes. I was like, I don't know necessarily what I would change, but as I kind of touched on earlier, is think about every interaction that you do from a young age, and really like remember the impact that you're going to leave on someone. So it's like whether it's in the schoolyard, or you're in a university class, or you're working a job, whatever it is, just be good to everyone. There's no need to honk your horn and swear and flip off someone. It's just like, in everything you do, like, be good to people. And all that stuff, I believe, like, that's just positivity that's going to be spread, and it's all going to come back.
Totally.
So, I think my parents did a really good job instilling that in me when I was younger. And I just think I thought about it more at the time. Now I look back and I'm like, that's important. So I also hope the younger people too, that like I'm coaching and stuff like that, hear that and remember, like, okay, every day does matter, and how you carry yourself and how you treat other people is very important.
Totally.
Not just today, but for your future.
That's amazing, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, guys, episode 38, the Guest Life podcast. All of Alex's tags, hashtags, websites, everything. It'll be in our link on his bio. We're very fortunate to have guests like Alex and hear his story, because everybody just assumes, how did he get the cottage? How did he get to there? Why is he so successful? He's so young. He must have this. It's really about asking the question, right? And then when you flip yourself in the mirror, and what we always say is, why not me? Why not now? Why can't I do it? Why can't I learn? Why can't I ask? And I think that really resonates. So we wouldn't be here without amazing guests like Alex, amazing listeners like you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Episode 38 with Alex Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate it, man.
Boom.
Awesome. That was good. I hope that was all right.